they're always backed up with knowledge and stuff and evidence. And so, yeah, because some people see him as a troublemaker, don't they? But I'm not so sure, to be honest. I'm not so sure. He seems, to me, when I watch his videos, he seems quite level-headed. And he says a lot of things that some of us are afraid to say. Do you know what I mean?
But also, what does he bring? What does he offer? What does he bring to the table? Yeah, he watches a couple of videos and he'll speak softly into the microphone.
Yeah.
I don't know what I get from watching him.
Yeah, true. He's sort of that guy at the side that's waiting for people to trip up, isn't he?
Yeah, he's judging you. It seems that's what he seems to be doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's better. I appreciate the variety. I appreciate the more the merrier is my view. Yeah, that's. I'm not sure what he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, I see your point, but he does. I mean, I've seen a couple of on his channel where he does, proper podcasts, proper live streams. They're just no one views them. But if he does something talking about Ali Dawah or Muhammad Hijab, hundreds of thousands of views. So they're the videos you probably get in your feed. But Sajid Lipham does do some content that's kind of knowledge based, and he's a student from Medina, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, have you seen the brother, the cowboy Muslim? I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
He's studying
He's supposed to go on his show, I think.
Really? Yeah, I like him. I met him on Discord. Not Discord, Clubhouse. That's right.
Good brother. Really keen to get involved as well.
Is his name Estes? Is he like?
He's not related to Yusuf Estes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does share the same surname, and he does. I think Yusuf Estes did mentor him a bit.
Okay.
He seems very. I mean, he seems to recite well, doesn't he? And
yes,
his knowledge is.
He's a proper student of knowledge.
Yeah, it's nice to see that.
We have a new. Somebody joined the room. Who's that, Claire?
Hello.
Hey, long time no speak. How you doing?
Claire, are you Muslim yet?
No. I was just going to say, you're not subscribed to my channel, because if you're, feeling a bit lonely and want to talk to somebody on a live stream, I mean, you should just.
I didn't know you had a channel.
What?
What's it called?
It's called, my name, and I've got two other ones called Secular Koranism with American characteristics and Secular Koranism with Israeli characteristics.
So the fact that you're shocked, I'm assuming it's got loads of subscribers and it's really popular.
No, not really. I mean, I've only got 1.4K subscribers. I think it should be more, but obviously they're suppressing me, and my tertiary and secondary channels have got even fewer. But I use them when I've got a strike.
Why are you getting strike? Is it the Israel talk?
No, I'm sort of okay with the Jews. They come on my channel, they, I don't know, but actually the Jews complain too about getting strikes and not being able to say stuff. If you really listen to them, that everybody's complaining about not being able to say sensible things. Complain about LGBT, gay marriage, transgenderism, and even the leftists also complain. People like Caleb Morpin, who something bad happened to him over PayPal. So everybody's been censored.
I didn't know YouTube was, because I've been banned on every platform, Instagram, TikTok. But YouTube, I've only seen one strike where someone porn bombed me on my first ever live stream. Other than that, I've never. And I talk about LGBT. I've got videos on it, and I've never received a strike. So maybe it's people that report you, right? Or
well, I think so. There is kind of a theory that if you want to ban people, then they want to report you, and that's where you get your strikes from your former associates that you ban after you've fallen out with them. I think I get relatively few strikes because I let people say what they like about me, and then since they allow. It is allowed for them to get it out of their system. They don't feel so much hatred. It's only when you can't even say what you want about those people that you kind of.
Do you get support from the Muslim community online, or would you say it's the opposite?
Well, I get a mixture. So, the people who are friendly about secular Koranism, the Muslims who don't want to talk about it, and Muslims who are actually hostile. So I guess that's okay. It's a good range. Well, it covers all the possibilities. So, and I was thinking, actually, if you talk about secular Koranism, you would get more interest and engagement because really it kind of allows white people who are kind of afraid of the situation now, to have a foot in both camps, one foot in the Muslim camp and saying, hey, I might just become Muslim, if you talk to me a bit more, and then also not sacrifice the position that a white person has in the West by giving up their dominant status if they convert to Islam. Is that the trouble that you've had, Jordan?
What, giving up my government status?
Yeah, your dominant status, because
my dominant status. I see.
You are a member of the dominant group.
Yeah, so that's a good
if
point.
You convert to Islam, I mean, I've been speaking to this American Muslim woman, and she said, well, as an American white Muslim, she actually becomes a minority of a minority. So it's even worse for white people.
Yeah, I guess thing is, I'm not obviously not someone in power. I'm someone who works and in society. I have a fair amount of people and stuff, but I think so. I don't think it affects me that much, to be honest. Other than online and people that debate Islam, I think amongst my peer groups and people I work with, they just think I'm a bit weird. I think, and British people are generally very tolerant, aren't they? They're generally very kind of tolerant people.
Yeah. I mean, your online persona is obviously different, and it attracts different kind of hostilities. So I mean, in the same room, people are okay. I mean, they don't want to get too aggressive in case you go crazy and start trying to strangle them or something.
It's a good question though. Have I lost my? And I think I don't know. I mean, I remember once going to Friday prayers. I went to Jummah and I was wearing a thobe. And I had very weird looks from fellow white people. So I guess that's where I'm visibly Muslim. People, I definitely felt a kind of almost lesser. My value had gone less amongst a lot of the white peers. But I guess I generally probably mix in, don't I? I still look like a British geezer, so I still talk like one. I guess my Muslimness isn't so obvious, is it?
Yeah, and I think it's great that you've kept your your Christian surname, because if you kind of lark too much like an Arab, it gets people's backs up. I think Tim Winter suffers from that. I mean, it really annoys me. It's like, why can't you just sort of be normal? Why do you have to dress like an Arab and spout all this Arabic? And you guys were talking about Muhammad hijab earlier, and this is something they can't help but do. It's like they want to make a point, and then they spout this Arabic to this non-Muslim who already hates Muslims, and then you speak Arabic at them, and you delay the conversation, you make them hate you more, and it doesn't achieve anything, and it makes you think, why do they do that? Because it slows down the conversation, and it's sort of, and then I realized, oh, they're just showing off to fellow Muslims, like,
hang on a minute.
I learned all this Arabic, and I want to show it off.
You're secular Koranism. The Quran is Arabic. I thought you'd be in support of people reciting the Quran.
Well, in English, so that people can, understand, that the bystander, the interested observer can sort of, he's going on about this verse because it says, whatever. I don't stop the conversation and show I can recite it in Arabic and then say it in English, which slows everything down. I think, a lot of people don't realize what they're doing and how annoying it is to other people, because I think, I still retain the mindset of an Islamophobe. So I know what triggers them. And I think that I maybe understand a little about why Muslims kind of feel they have to do what they do, which is very annoying in my view.
Okay. Yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, and you're the most kind of, I don't know, cool Muslim. You don't sound Muslim, which is why they don't know what to do with you, and they find you very threatening.
So are you saying your reactionary is not cool?
Well, yeah, I think he is, but then he, I do think he is, because he has an open mind about secular Koranism, and he doesn't talk like the others, which I think also sets him apart. And but then you get trouble from the others, don't you, reactionary? Or has he?
The Muslims, yeah, I get trouble from the Muslims.
Yes.
There's a group called the Muslims. But some people had the impression that your proposal of secular Koranism is really to enable Jewish supremacy. What you're really arguing for is Jewish supremacism. What would you say to that?
I just don't see. Okay, I want these rabbis to rank the 4 Gentile religions to show what they were chosen to do and which they still refuse to do. Because it is part of their narrative that they are God's chosen people. And I keep asking them, so what did God choose you to do? And it's like, well, they don't really say anything. And I'm saying, this sort of light unto the nations thing, you're supposed to be lighting their way away from idolatry and towards, a no-hide religion like Islam, right? And
so
they
you accept that Judaism should be supreme?
No, but it is okay. Maybe it's supreme in the sense that the Quran even refers to Jews and refers to the Torah, but in practice it can't be, because they themselves don't want a Torah theocracy in Israel. They really don't. Half the Jews, or maybe more than half the Jews, don't want to live as Jews. They just want to live as liberal Democrats living in Israel, and that is their problem. That they don't agree. I mean, they're fighting each other the whole time. They actually need a 2-state solution just for the Jews. Forget the Arabs, because they don't really get along. They've had 5 elections in as many years, so I don't think they're happy bunnies. So whenever people think, oh, Jews are just so cohesive and blah blah, I don't think they realize the reality of the situation. So I'm saying, Christianity and Islam are derived from Judaism, so there's no escaping that. And you could make a case for Gentiles appropriating their religion, because that's what the Christians do. They just took the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament, and made it their religion and put a spin on it with their Christianity. So you could say,
what I mean is that secular Koranism, right, or the secularized application of Islam, your proposal of such an application will only strengthen the
Jews.
The idea, it strengthens the idea that Jews are supreme, okay, and that others need no-hide laws, okay, and the best form of no-hide law is a secular form of Islam, where the spiritual side is removed from it, therefore it cannot grow in the hearts of people and spread. Is that your?
I don't see how it would remove the thing. Okay,
why not the secularization of Judaism?
No, because nobody wants a Torah theocracy, because it has 36 capital offenses. The Torah itself, it's like, shake a stick and you on a Saturday, and then you've already clocked up a death penalty.
How is Jewish? Yeah, how is Jewish capital? How are Jewish capital punishments different from Islamic capital punishments?
Well, it's hardly mentioned. The capital punishment is hardly mentioned in the Quran at all. Right? I mean, there are, the death penalty only where the interests of justice require it, and crucifixion for rebels and people who sow corruption throughout the land. But otherwise it's sort of silent about the death penalty. So I think even Jews would have to say that if they want to avoid being executed, they would have to choose the Quran. And I'm saying, yes, I'm actually selling secular Koranism with Israeli characteristics. So okay, I'm saying basically you don't even have to be Muslim in order to implement secular Koranism, as long as you agree to follow the rules, and that there are different ways of interpreting it. which, if you want to adopt it in your own country and you have your own national school of Sharia, you'll be able to do. And I'm saying any country can adopt it, even China, as it is now, if they wanted to. And so everybody would have their own, particular interpretation of the Quran, and that, I think, would make the world a safer and happier place. And I don't see how that would make Jews supreme, because my argument for Jews is that since if you believed everything in the Torah, you would be clocking up a capital offense for a lot of the things that are okay for Gentiles. And if that were the case, you would already be okay. So if you're guilty technically as a Jew, I mean, nothing's going to happen to you in this life because there's no Torah theocracy. But if God exists, then it will be waiting for you in the afterlife, right? You've broken the Sabbath, death. I don't know, you're a sodomite, you're an adulterer. You can easily clock up more than one death penalty. If you're a Jew, and if you're being logical about the whole thing, if you believe in God in the afterlife, then all these things are waiting for you in the afterlife. And if you wish to escape this, there is no other way of escaping it other than converting to Islam. And that would be my argument to Jews, and they don't like it. I mean, I put it to them a few times, to these rabbis, and they virtually have no answer. So I don't know why you think, I'm helping Jews to be supreme. It's like a lot of them are confused. They don't want to, obviously they don't want to endorse the religion of the people they think hate them most. So they won't rank the 4 Gentile religions, as I suggested that they do, according to their conformity with the Noahide laws. And if they wanted to rank it, then Islam would be, Judaism light, because Islam is the most, similar to Judaism, with the avoidance of pork and that kind of thing. And then after that would be Buddhism, because technically it's, atheist, and after that it would be Hinduism, because it's idolatry. And I'm saying Christianity is the worst of all, because Christians actually worship Jesus as the co-equal of God. So it's idolatry and blasphemy. And I want that point to be reinforced. So these Westerners give up their Christian identity, when they realize, how God would think of Christianity if he actually existed. I don't know if I've explained my points very well. I don't know if you understand it. Silence. Hello? I can't even hear any shuffling in the background now. So I don't know what's going on. Hello, people? Why is everybody so quiet? I don't know. And then the...
yeah, sorry, my audio keeps cutting out. So the only way I can fix it is by jumping out and jumping back in again.
Oh, okay. As long as you heard me. But I know Jordan's muted himself. But I mean, this is really, what I'm saying. I really don't think. I mean, if you people think Jews are supreme, it's only because they are servants of the American empire. That's what they do. It's like, we'll work for you, American imperialist, and Israel is the 51st state. But then so is Britain, so is, most of Europe. I mean, why are we fighting a war in Ukraine? Because Uncle Sam told us to, because it's a NATO war. So I don't think that anybody will have any kind of national independence unless they reject liberal democracy. So, and I don't think even the Russians realize it yet, because technically the Russians have a liberal democracy. I think they even have a liberal party. I'm just waiting for them to become a one-party state. And then that will be, the real break for them. But you know, I think our government, the kind of government that we have, is actually enabling the deep state to control us. You know that the CIA basically want us to be fighting elections so that they can remove people by rigging. Oops, I shouldn't have said that, but you know what I mean. Because we're easier to control if we operate democracy in this way. Because we it's easy to actually. There's a line in Black Panther. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but there's only one white actor, and he's a CIA agent, and he said more than once that is how the CIA control the world, through rigging people's elections in the third world. So I mean, they're feeling pretty cold.
Says, did you hear about Abu Toba? No, what about him?
Who's that? I don't even know who that person is.
Can you hear me? No, nobody can.
I can hear you now, but I don't know who Abu Toba is. Oh, and then it's gone quiet, and I'm the only one in the stream. Oh dear. The link. I can't post it to you because I don't have a range. And Reactionary is back again, but I can't hear him. Yeah, well, maybe it's because Nikki Travers asked how come Claire never drops off, because I guess I have a reasonably good stable Wi-Fi, and I'm streaming through my computer. It's kind of like musical chairs or something. I don't know what's going on.
I'm back.
Can we talk now, the three of us?
Yeah, I think I said last time, Claire. I don't know. As a Muslim, I don't get your secular Koranism. I don't. From what I understood last time, and correct me wrong, it's kind of your interpretation of the Quran. You'll take bits out. There's no use of scholars. There's no spiritual side, like Reactionary said. So a Muslim is gonna, I would hope, throw it away, the whole idea. But
No,
but I don't wish you luck in your endeavours.
But can I try and explain it to you? And can you try and understand it? Or I sometimes think people are deliberately not understanding it.
You can, but the thing is, I'm Muslim. I'm not a Christian. I won't be like, well, yeah, I'll drop that bit and I'll add that bit. Yeah, it's fine. I'm Muslim. Like, it's the things are going to be fairly set, and I'm not going to be able to change them.
Okay, but I just want you to understand that it's not my selection it's not the selection of my favorite verses. I've agreed to implement all of them. I may interpret them in a different way, but I'm not going to say, oh, these are my favorite verses, I'm going to ignore the others. I've never said that. I mean, I will do something with them.
But some verses are categorically clear, right? And some need explaining. And we use, obviously, the Prophet, peace upon him, the Sunnah. We use scholars. Presumably, there's no hadith in this, is there? You're just literally taking the Quran for what it is and taking your spin on it. And so,
yes, and I will take advice from people who want to use a hadith, but if it actually contradicts what the Quran says, like stoning adulterers when there's no mention of that in the Quran, I'm going to reject it. But I will use a literal interpretation, and my particular methodology is to only implement the commandments of Allah.
Who you don't believe in?
Yeah, but they can be. If you read the Quran, even as a non-Muslim, you'll know what the commandments are. The verses that says do this or don't do that. and then the rest I'm going to ignore. I'm going to ignore the threats and promises of God. I'm going to ignore the stories because it wouldn't be relevant for legislative purposes. You know, you can't make a story into a law. You know, it's impossible to do that. You can only make, do this and don't do that verses into law. So, I'm not doing it in an obviously different way to you guys, really. I mean, in terms of methodology, I think you can understand that. And also, I don't think people will, buy the whole thing if you don't give them some room for maneuver to make it their own. And I think that there's enough English legal tradition for them to interpret it in a way that is in harmony with the normal and natural meaning of the words. I mean, you can. A good test would be say, oh, whatever verse, and how are you going to interpret it? Because we Muslims interpret it in a different way. And even when you say that, you will, it's like, yeah, I know you've got all these schools of Sharia and all these branches of jurisprudence, and there's quite a few of them. So even Muslims can't agree on the interpretation of certain verses. So, why be so prescriptive when you're trying to sell it to Western?
I agree. Like, for example, then, the Muslims that come in charge, let's say, if Muslims may follow a different school of thought to say that I do, but they're still following a school of thought. They're still basing it back to the Prophet, peace be upon him. They're still using things, whereas, like I say, from what I gather from you, it's going to be, you're going to cherry pick things out of there, and so it can't even be called Koranism, to be honest. It's kind of Claire's cherry picking of scripture. And
I've spoken to Quranists, and basically the more liberal, aren't they? I know they're treated as heretics, and they wanted, to say things like, oh, it's okay to be gay and whatever.
Yeah.
Over the years, and I'm not doing that. I'm not just saying, oh, I'm just going to interpret this inconvenient verse away. As far as I'm concerned, I have dealt with the most difficult verse in the Quran for women, which is a wife-beating verse, and it is my particular interpretation. I think it will give justice without, interpreting it away.
To what depth has your studies taken you then? So presumably, if you're going to use the Quran, have you studied it in depth? Have you taken a degree? Have you sat with scholars? What have you done?
I've read the Quran in several translations. I am legally trained. I think my knowledge is reasonably good, and Islamic scholars said it was reasonably good when I was talking to him. So I think I'll do all right. I don't think people will say, oh, she's never heard of this verse, blah blah. Obviously, I don't know every verse off the top of my head, but I have read it in several translations, and I'm talking about it all the time. So I think I'm reasonably familiar with it. And I think my legal training would help. And anyway, it's like I don't have to be, the fount of all knowledge, because all these ideas will have to be negotiated, and to be implemented, it will need, a whole bunch of lawyers, and everything will, they will be fighting about which interpretation to have, and my proposal is just, kind of something in principle, like, if you don't have a functioning religion anymore in the West, in this country, shouldn't you have one? And if you want one, which is the best one to choose? Are you going to be Hindus or Buddhists or Jews or, Scientologists? I think the choice is obvious. And I don't want to get too bogged down in detail.
And you're atheist, right?
I'm agnostic. I have to say I'm agnostic because I don't want to be arguing with people about whether God exists or not. I think it's a waste of time. I'm saying there are good moral arguments for obeying his laws, even though we're not sure of its existence, because all these laws have they are meant to discourage some predictable evil. And it's quite obvious, like, gambling, you shouldn't gamble, you shouldn't
Mm.
become an alcoholic,
Yeah.
usury is very exploitative, and it's like
Yeah, I can see
it's
how you
common
respect that.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've read this Quran in various translations. How have you not come to the conclusion, for example, that maybe there's only one God, or that that Islam is true? How has that not happened? What question marks you still have?
Well, I think I'm actually quite useful for your dawah, because if somebody who is agnostic is prepared to adopt Sharia, then it's a stronger message of approval than if I were just another Muslim saying, you know, non-Muslims should adopt Sharia. I mean,
But
I think it's
Sharia, the whole Sharia is basically pathway to Allah, right? Pathway. So if you don't even believe in that, I don't really see how you'd be someone fit to. I don't know. The whole thing for me, like I say, I'd need more. Definitely. I don't think I'm ever going to buy into it, Claire, but it's definitely interesting what you're saying.
Well, I mean, it's meant to be uniting social conservatives in the West of all races and religions, because at the moment we're just being global homogenized, right?
Do you think Muslims want to unite with all other religions?
No. I think Muslims who have settled in the West would be concerned about the kind of education their children are getting. I mean, they've obviously demonstrated about all kinds of things, like the gay marriage and transgenderism, and it's quite telling, isn't it? Why the only people who ever seem to challenge the whole thing are Muslims is because they're still a young group, because they're still having children who are primary school age, and while the dominant group, the white people, it's like, well, they don't care. They hardly any one of them have children, and if they do, they're only unmarried mothers, and and their fathers are absent. That's why they can just roll it out everywhere, and nobody cares, because these things are only men care about, right? The principle of the thing. And unmarried mothers, it's like, oh, I managed to get the kid out of my hair for these hours in the day. I mean, I don't care what rubbish they're pumping into the mind of my child, as long as they do a bit of babysitting for me. And unfortunately, it is these people who are mostly having children. So you can imagine what sort of society you're going to be getting soon if you don't stop it.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. So you respect. It sounds like you respect Muslims. You respect how strong they are on their faith. You respect many of the laws, and you feel it would be a good thing for society, right?
Yeah, I appreciate the construction of their religion, because they have a book of rules that it's supposed to come from God, that they know about, and even people who are not Muslim know about, and so they have this identity. And in the meantime, people in the West, they have what this thing called the New Testament. It's got nothing in it that you can use as a book of rules. There's nothing in it at all that you can even cling to say, oh, we're not supposed to be doing this, that, or whatever. Because, okay, this country is meant to be the birthplace of Anglicanism, and there are the 39 articles of Anglicanism, and they don't help us at all, even if we were Anglican. Because basically, the situation in this country is that the monarch is really the head of the Church of England, but he doesn't really do it. But so he gives a job to the Archbishop of Canterbury, and he follows the orders of the monarch, or in our case, the orders of Parliament. And he hasn't really got a say in anything, because if you go back in further into the English Reformation, quite a few of these archbishops, they were burnt at the stake for not agreeing with the monarch about something or other. So they never really had autonomy. It's just a show, and it's only Islam that has a book of rules that you can't tamper with, and what they can try and redact it, but there's just too many copies around for them to do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's the construction of Islam that protects social conservatism, and this is what I want to
The reason why the Muslims you're talking about that are strong against kids being LGBT, they don't budge, right? They're not flexible many things. The reason why they are like that is because they believe that the Quran is from Allah, right? They believe that's why. That's what separates, for me, Muslims from maybe Christians who have a Bible that not really sure who it's from. Muslims believe that is the verbatim word of Allah, the Quran. You're obviously extracting rules from it and laws from it and stuff, but essentially you don't believe the Quran is essentially telling you to worship Allah, which you don't do. So you're not following this, but you're literally just going to subtract some laws from it. So my point is, like, I get why you're doing it, and as a Muslim, I'd love to see laws implemented from the Quran in society, but I'm completely free from it being anything to do with Islam, or it can't be anything to do with anything that I'm following.
Yeah, and you can think what you like, because the chapter 2 verse 256 is, I believe, the basis of the First Amendment, which says there is no compulsion in belief, truth stands clear from error. And I want, obviously nobody, even if this country did become decided to adopt secular Koranism, we would have regime change imposed on us by the Americans, who do this to everybody whose regime they don't like. So really, to start the whole ball rolling, it has to start in America, And I'm saying that there is that there are Islamic footprints all over the American Constitution. The First Amendment is the most important one, because I think the American Revolution was really a rejection of monarchy and the religion that supported monarchy, which is Christianity. So the Christianity was always used as to support the divine right of kings to rule. That was what historically it was ever used for.
So you don't believe in the apostasy law in Islam?
Well, the verse in the Quran about apostasy says God will deal with you in the afterlife. It doesn't say, oh, you're to punish the person in this life. But I know the Hadith says, treat them as a traitor and execute them. And I know there are arguments that traitors, routinely get executed anyway, whether you're Muslim or not. But I think it would protect our rights more if we had a book of rules. In the same way that if you're playing some game, and when you come, you start disputing the whatever that the other players are doing. You need a book of rules to refer to, and we don't even have that. We don't have that. We have this thing called an unwritten constitution, and I can tell you, as somebody who managed to pass the bar exams, that you never really know what your rights are, because Parliament can change the law anytime, right? They can change the meaning of marriage. That's what the doctrine of parliamentary supremacy means, that Parliament can pass and repeal any law. So this is something that I don't think a lot of people understand. So, our elected representatives who are corrupt and incompetent can do this to us. And it's their right, because that's what it says under the doctrine of parliamentary supremacy. I mean, that's why, the Americans started this whole thing, like, we have a constitution now. We can't just let the king do anything to us that he wants to. I mean, that was basically what the American Revolution was about, and George III was, well, he was a bit mad, and I guess that made it even more intolerable to the founding fathers. And then it happened again in the French Revolution when the king got killed, right? because every time when government was so bad and the king got killed, I mean, there was a reason behind it, right? If they'd followed the rules, maybe if they'd followed Quranic principles of government, the government wouldn't have become so bad.
Sure. Reactionary, you want to come in?
Yeah, sure. We have somebody who's just joined as well. British Pakistani atheist.
Is that what he actually looks like?
Hello.
Who's in
Hi
this?
there.
Who's in your picture?
That's Ertugrul, the actor playing Ertugrul.
Oh, okay.
In the TV
It looks like Jordan M.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're trying to be me.
No, he's a Turkish guy, but it looks a bit
He
like
looks very white. He looks very white.
Some Turks do. But yeah, this is a really interesting conversation you guys are having. With a secular Koranism, Claire? Is that what you're
Yes.
talking
Are you still an atheist, British Pakistani atheist?
Unfortunately, I am. Yes, React. But
Yeah.
I now focus my debate against fellow ex-Muslim atheists.
Against them.
Against them, yes. Many of them have unfortunately taken up right-wing positions, and I argue against them for the most part. Yeah. So you guys haven't seen me. How long has it been now? Maybe 2-3 years we haven't spoken, I think. Do those channels still go on? Do you know the ones that we used to interact with each other on? Or...
No, I don't think so. I'm not unless they've moved. I think things have moved to Discord, but I'm not really too privy to it all.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. So
Are you not subscribed to Claire Khaw?
Unfortunately not. No. I tried to look up her channel on YouTube and nothing was coming up. So
Really? Have I been shadow banned or something? Don't you see anything under Claire Khaw?
Oh no, I put in Claria Law. Someone mentioned it.
Oh, it doesn't show.
Is that Hamza's? That's Hamza's nickname, isn't it?
But to be honest, I can't be on for too much longer. I need to get to sleep. I've got work tomorrow morning. But it's just good to to see that you guys are still around and still going strong. And yeah, keep on at it.
Thanks.
So, yeah, Claire, you just mentioned that you studied law, and British Pakistani atheist is a lawyer as well. So.
Oh no, I'm not a lawyer. I never. I did my legal practitioner's course, but I never did my 2-year training contract. So, yeah.
You're trained in law at least. So.
Yes, it was a long time ago. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for jumping on, British Pakistani atheist.
Yeah, good luck in your battle against the ex-Muslims.
No, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. I will do.
Why do you think they take up right-wing positions?
I think some do because it's maybe they're financially incentivized to do so. I think it's very hard to survive as an ex-Muslim on YouTube. That you don't get many subscribers, to be honest.
Really?
Really? Yeah, no. The only one that's really big is Apostate Prophet. The rest of them are less than 100k subs. I don't know any other major ex-Muslim in the English language. And we saw Harry Sultan when he debated Daniel. I mean, an apostate prophet. I mean, they're pretty much useless, aren't they? I mean, let's be honest. They're not very good. And so I challenged them on a few topics. And
what do you think about Hamza's claim that there's no intellectual reason to leave Islam? Because these ex-Muslims, I'm not saying that it's not my claim, but these ex-Muslims do kind of validate Hamza's comment, because I don't know, they switch stories. You never really know the reason why they've really left, and they get very emotional very quickly.
Well, I think there are a logical and reasonable reasons for leaving Islam, but I think that the issue you have with the ex-Muslims that we've seen in debates with the likes of Daniel, such as Harry Sultan and an Apostate Prophet, is that they don't have any epistemological basis or foundation for their beliefs. So whenever you have a conversation with them, they're a bit all over the place, and they can't like track a thought back to their original like presuppositions. So they tend to struggle in debate against someone who, like Daniel, who kind of knows what he's doing to an extent. But we saw with Daniel, he's debated a couple of liberals or left wingers or centre left people, such as Destiny and Vosh and Mr. Girl, and he got destroyed, did Daniel. I mean, it just goes to show. I mean, he did well against the ex-Muslims, but when he came up against a competent debater, it really showed
talking
how
about
far
the
he was.
geezer that was saying porn's good for you.
Which
That's
guy?
Vosh, isn't it? Vaush.
That guy was
Vosh,
terrible.
you know, Claire.
That
Which
guy
one?
was
Which one?
terrible.
Which one?
I don't remember his name, but there was a geezer that was arguing that porn is good for you.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, that's Vosh.
You
yeah,
thought Daniel
yeah.
lost that debate?
Yeah, I thought he lost it. I did, yeah.
I didn't see that one. I'll have to look.
Don't you think Daniel squashed the T jump?
To be honest, I don't think much of T jump, but I didn't watch that much of that debate. He's very insufferable to watch, that guy.
Yeah, I can't watch that.
T jump. Honestly, he's the way he talks is in a very kind of arrogant and disrespectful way. So it's not much that you can garner from a conversation with T jump, to be honest.
There was one yesterday with Aaron Ra. Did you see that? That was a bit better. I thought Daniel did okay.
No, I missed that one. I know it's on modern day debates, but I need to rewatch that, or I need to watch that. But yeah, I just don't have the time. I've got yeah, it's hard to make time, to be honest. But yeah. Right.
So
anyway, I'll get off.
Do you have a reason yet? Have you found a reason why God does not exist?
I think we've had these discussions, React.
Yeah.
Have we not? We're going to rehash all ground, 3 years ago.
Well, I was wondering if you eventually found your proof.
I tell you something. I have my empathy for the Muslim community is like the way I approached those conversations were not the right way, to be honest, in many instances. Yeah, I mean, if I ever rubbed anyone the wrong way, or if I said something which was, deeply offensive to any of you guys, I want to apologize for that.
Don't worry, we probably started it.
Yeah, the door to Islam is open, so come to it, and you'll be welcome. We know about the Barelvi background, and we know Barelvis are not Muslims, so you're not losing anything.
That's the controversial stance. So you're saying the majority of Muslims in the UK are not Muslims? No,
the majority of Barelvis are not Muslims.
Well, the majority of UK Muslims
Barelvis
are Barelvi.
Muslims
The majority,
yeah.
Majority of UK Muslim, well, the majority of UK people who call themselves Muslims are Barelvis. So, yeah, fair enough. If you want to apostate the majority of Muslims in the UK, then fair enough. But yeah, anyway, guys, I'm off. All right. Enjoy the rest of your evening, okay?
Bye.
Bye. One second.
Is he gone?
Yes,
yeah,
he's
my
gone.
audio cut. Yeah.
About these debates, people always seem to, not be sure who won, or is a kind of mood perception thing about.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way of objectively determining, like, so and so definitely won, like in a boxing match, and when the winner's actually declared.
Yeah, I think that you could actually, if you had a good moderator, you would say, okay, before you move from one point to the next, you could say, okay, was that question answered? The moderator should be able to determine whether a point was established or refuted or upheld or torn down, and they can keep score and say at the end of it, okay, here's our outcome. We have a clear winner. And then they could put a vote to the audience as well as to who they think won.
No, the Muslim always wins, no matter what happens. you just say, mashallah, brother, you smashed him.
Some of the Muslim debaters on there, I don't know what they're doing on there, to be honest, sadly.
But some of the questions are so stupid as well.
Mm.
You know, it's like you won't even decide anything. I'm just trying to remember the one that Daniel Hakikachi was having yesterday. You know, it's like, oh yes, is atheism or Islam better for society? It's like, well, you can't really tell, you know, and people will just not, you know, it should be something like, is Islam the only way to restore social conservatism and protect marriage and family values? You know, it's something more specific than you know, like atheism v Islam. You know, I think a lot of the questions are framed wrong.
What was the name of that group that Ralph used to argue for? Do you remember?
Is it Patriotic Alternative? Is it them?
No, he was. Do you remember he was talking against the cathedral, right? And so when Andrew Tate talks about the matrix, to me that's another word for what Ralph called the cathedral. And I remember the name. There was a particular thought or philosophy that Ralph was promoting.
Neo-reactionary, NRX.
It wasn't called computerism.
NRX, it's called NRX.
And if any of you remember, just type it in the chat.
Yeah, NRX.
So that's the kind of impression I was getting from.
Can you hear Claire?
Andrew Tate just before he took his.
Can you hear any of us?
Shahada.
That's brilliant.
NRX.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us react? Oh, he's dropped out again.
I would have played along with that.
Yeah, it's new. NRX is by Curtis Yarvin, right?
I wonder what stage Ralph's on now. He was on stage 4 last time I saw him.
Yes, NRX is the term. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, and Ralph has chopped his channel, hasn't he? Because he's got a job and he doesn't want to be discovered doing these naughty things.
There's some of the stuff he said online, like I'm sure if any employer was to click on it, he'd be finished, wouldn't he? I'm sure he regrets many of it. The problem is it stays on internet forever, doesn't it? Silly man.
Well, there's a theory that he's a bored house husband, and that's why he's got so much time to stream, and now he's got to go and get a job, so he can't do it anymore.
I saw Ralph on Clubhouse too. He made his way over there.
Yes. I just think, you know, sometimes I think, you know, we're just birds that sing, and that's all we are. Nobody listens to us. It might as well be birdsong for all the good it does. Anyone. You know, and means, you know, just as much to other people. I mean, there are no intellectuals really. I mean, you were talking about Jordan Peterson earlier, and how, you know, everybody just loves and respects him, and I think, you know, it's because he is perceived by Muslims and non-Muslims as being the Pope of social conservatism. He's the only intellectual that pushes back against all this crazy stuff, and everybody just sort of gathers around him because they're so helpless. And Jordan Peterson is the best we've got for social conservatism and sensible things.
What's your opinion on him then? Do you like him?
I find him a bit annoying, and, you know, obviously, you know, it's like he's got this sort of, you know, all these people who hate Muslims because, you know, he's got kind of a white nationalist following, right? And he's got to be, you know, keep his distance from them, and I guess he's got to. Or maybe he's just told that, you know, if you ever, you know, step over this line and you seem to be friendly with the nationalists, then you know, we're going to axe you and you won't have your book deals and whatever anymore. And maybe that's why he's kind of, you know, doing it like that. And his most recent discussion was with somebody called Yoram Hazony. I don't know if you've heard of him. Well, he's an Israeli who wrote this book called The Virtue of Nationalism, and that was a few years ago. and he was very badly received in America. Well, he's an Israeli, but he speaks with an American accent, and he went and debated all these liberal Jews who basically treated him as if he were Trump. So I don't think it's a Jew Gentile thing. It's like even these Jews who are social conservatives, complain about getting cancelled. Like PragerU and all those people. And a lot of them are on Rumble now because they just say, well, I'm just pointing out the obvious. Isn't it true that blah blah blah, and it says in the Torah blah blah blah, and then they get done for hate speech, and and the police call and they get their computers and phones taken away. And there is this. I just wanted to mention Rabbi Mizrahi because I think he's the best of all of them. Because he's no holds barred. He's ultra orthodox, and and really all the liberal Jews hate him because they can't win an argument against him. Because he starts from the position that we suffer because we have sinned, and God sends Muslims to kill us because because half of us are don't observe the Torah and blah blah, and we deserve the Holocaust because of these Reform Jews, which basically all the Orthodox Jews are treat as heretics. That they say things like, oh, Jews can't go into churches and they can't go in Reformed synagogues either because they're heretics. So there is a lot of division amongst Jews, and they complain about Christian missionaries flying in from America to convert them to Christianity, while they pretend that they're messianic Jews, which is a polite word for Christian, but a Christian Jew.
Have you followed what's happened in the NBA with Kyrie Irving?
I haven't even heard of NBA. I'm sorry. What's that
okay?
About?
So the basketball league in the United States, one of their top players, most popular basketball players, he tweeted an Amazon link to a video called "Hebrews to Negroes." There's a video produced by these what they call
Hebrew Israelites.
Yes, it's one of these Hebrew Israelite people. So he retweeted a link to this video, and then the ADL complained, right, to the NBA, whose CEO is Jewish, Adam Silver, and the owner of the team suspended him immediately for 5 games, unpaid. And Nike has cut their contract with him. Several $1 million a year he was getting from that contract for his own shoe. And the ADL, or somebody put his team, actually, they put 6 conditions that he must fulfill before he returns to the NBA to play basketball, right? 1, he must donate $500,000 to the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. He must have a personal meeting with some rabbi. I don't remember his name. I don't remember all of the things, but there were 6.
It's outrageous, isn't it?
Yeah, completely cancelled. And people were trying to sack him, and all of the pundits, the ex-NBA basketball players, have all turned against Kyrie Irving. Even LeBron James, his ex-teammate, said, "Oh, I don't condone hate speech against any group." He didn't do any hate speech. All he did was retweet a link to a video, which some say has particular tropes about Jewish people. That was it.
I mean, am I right in thinking that Hebrew Israelites are saying we're the real Jews, not these Ashkenazi people and all that? Is that basically the story? Oh, it's gone quiet again. Anyway, I think that's basically the story. I mean, I guess Jewish history is all about people trying to take away their status and saying you're not chosen anymore because we are.
Yeah, they called him they've labeled him anti-Semitic, and his argument is, how can I be anti-Semitic when I'm a Semite myself? So,
yes. Well, I mean, the ATL is I think they represent I suppose secular Judaism, right? I mean they are the biggest Jewish voice in the West, aren't they? I mean, as ADL. So it's like forget rabbis and people who are properly Jewish. It's like it's these leftist Jews that are the most powerful, and
and you see what's happened with Kanye West, or Ye as he's known now.
yeah. And, I don't even know what he said. I can't remember. What did he say actually? Because I'm not.
I don't know it specifically, but it's something to do with
Jews.
He's trying to encourage Black people to be more like Jews in how they are, in his view. They support each other in their careers and becoming executives of big companies. Right, so there's a clip of him on YouTube where it may be TMZ or somebody that came to him and said, how do you feel about what you said about Jewish people? So he brought out his phone and he showed a listing of all the top companies, all the top media companies in America, and a list of all of their executives, and you could see how many of them were Jewish versus non-Jewish. It was like overwhelmingly Jewish, right? So this was his point. He said, and the person asking the question couldn't respond. Does that make him anti-Semitic? I don't know.
No, I mean, but the thing is, well, even. Okay, I kind of observe the Jews, and it's like they call each other Nazis all the time. They accuse each other of anti-Semitism too, of being, self-hating Jews, and I think people just use words as weapons, and they all when they kind of lose the argument, they use a nuclear option, and call each other Nazis, and nobody kind of tries to firm up the meaning of the word, like, well, actually you can't be a Nazi unless you're actually German speaking or a German national, and not all anti-Semites are Nazis, and what do you mean by anti-Semitism? There should be a legal definition for all these sort of words that people routinely use to destroy people's reputations. And unfortunately, there is no central authority to say, anti-Semitism means this and only this, and you can't pretend, just because some Gentile offended you that they're an anti-Semite. I mean, there's this joke going around that an anti-Semite is somebody a Jew hates.
Yep. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, and I think well, Jews have a double protection that Muslims don't have. Well, maybe Muslims have it because it's all about having the protected characteristics under the Equality Act, right? It sort of Jews get protection as a race and as a religion, so they have this double protection that gives them a lot of leverage in legal action, and it also gives Muslims some protection when they're complaining about Islamophobia, and for the locals, the white people with no religion, they have no protection at all. And I keep saying, it's like you turn up in a live chat and everybody else has a wrench, but you don't. And that is a position of the white man, in my view.
By the way, did Charlie Big Potatoes get arrested?
I guess this is a question for Jordan, because I've never heard of him.
You don't know Charlie Big Potatoes? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Who is he?
I
I
think
know
he
he
was
was
part
a
of one.
far right character when he went on Zabia's channel.
Yeah,
Wasn't he in Spain hiding or something? I don't know.
yeah. So I read an article in the papers that somebody was extradited from Spain and arrested. I don't know if he was extradited, but he was arrested on return to the UK. And I was thinking, is that him? They mentioned a name. They didn't say Charlie Big Potatoes, but they mentioned a name that may have been his real name.
They've really fallen apart, haven't they? This who's the Tommy goons that they've been found to sleep with the grooming victims. Spend money on coke parties, that funders money. They've completely fallen apart. If you notice, people are falling out. There's sort of separating into groups. People that used to support Tommy now say, "Oh, he's a waste man."
Is it? What about Danny Tomo? Is he?
I think Danny Tomo might have been the one. I don't want to misquote. I think he might have been one of the ones that did it. I know he wasn't on kidnapping charges and just the whole thing. These are the people that came out as the moral people that were going to call out the Muslim grooming gangs, and they're all a bunch of scum, really. And I think the fact that they used the grooming gang victims to push their agenda and to make a bit of money makes them just as bad as the groomers themselves, really. And I think it's all kind of been exposed, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow. Just a matter of time. That's all it was.
Yeah.
What happened to Reel's channel? Is it still going?
I
know he made a comeback.
I never really watched his. I know you were a fan. I never really.
You only watched it the day that I was there.
Yeah. I got a text. Reaction is on to go get him.
Yeah, so Tommy's group has fallen apart and EF Dow has fallen apart at the same time. Oh dear.
No, EF Dow still goes strong. EF Dow still goes strong.
Yes. So tell us, Jordan, about something about married life. How has your life changed in any ways?
Well, I've got to be careful because she's in the other room. So I don't know. It's amazing. There's nothing better.
The moment they get the ring on their finger, they turn.
One interesting thing about my wife is that she wants me to get another one, but I don't want one.
She wants somebody to help her with her wifely chores.
Maybe I'm too much. I don't know, but no, I think. Sorry, my cat's fighting something. I think my relationship when you're married for the sake of Allah, when you're in a relationship like that, it's so different to because obviously I've been engaged before, been in other relationships, but it's just a beautiful thing. I truly understand why it is. It's completing your deen, having a partner, having a Muslim wife. So yeah, it's been good for me, alhamdulillah.
Mm-hmm. So does she have somebody in mind for you to marry? I mean, this is very unusual.
I didn't pursue the topic that far.
In case she says, yes, I do, here she is. Marry her.
Do you know what? Back before my Shahada, more than one girlfriend, 2 girlfriends, 3 girlfriends, that's not a problem. But more than one wife, that's something completely different.
Yeah, and having to pay for their stuff, right?
Yeah. All the responsibilities and yeah. I had reactions before wives, though.
You don't want to publicize that. Maybe they don't know about each other.
Okay.
Under secular Koranism, they would all be registered properly, so they would know.
So could a non-Muslim have 4 wives?
Yes, but they would have to be registered properly, and they would have to treat them fairly, and blah blah blah. You can't just sort of you would have to do all the checks, right? If you wanted to marry somebody, like how many? If he's a man, it's like, has he already got a wife? Yeah, the regime will be a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a kind of marriage contract, you and your wife?
So we had a nikah. So yeah, it was the contract, Islamic contract. So we're not, obviously it's not legally binding. That would be something, a separate event, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. We have a contract. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's actually quite helpful. You can always sort of, when you're arguing with each other, it's like, oh, you haven't done this thing, and I go, I'm going to divorce you because you haven't done it. But at least it's sort of like, well, actually, I did agree to this thing, but I didn't fancy doing it now because I don't like you.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should do it. It's like, so they know what the hell it's all about. It's not just fun and games and I love you till I no longer love you, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, so obviously I never dated my wife or did any, there's a couple of meetings and then you decide whether you're going to marry or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then you grow together, which is a completely different concept to what I'm used to, but it makes sense now. Historically I would have, I know, gone out to a bar or meet them somewhere at work and you kind of like, you have this spark that people talk about and you got no kind of respect for each other or no kind of like understanding of each other's expectations. You just fall into one another. And then a couple of years later, you realize, hang on a minute, we're not really compatible. But
I can imagine one scenario where you'll get into an argument with your wife, right? So you'll have gone to the masjid to pray Isha.
Yeah.
And you'll come home after some time. Your wife will have cooked and you will say, sorry, I'm not hungry. Okay. And she'll be really upset. And the truth is, when you left the masjid, you went to your little kebab shop.
Yeah.
I can't see you abandoning that. Like, how are you coping? Is that still...
Yeah, so we have been having some kebabs and I've dragged her along to Nando's a couple of times because I just love, my life used to be Nando's for lunch, kebab for dinner before I got married. But I am appreciating, food cooked when I come home. I am getting used to it, but I do love a kebab.
Yeah. So you'll bring her one when you come back.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I don't want to do, which I've seen many of my fellow Muslims do, is they get married and they suddenly become really overweight because their wife cooks them all sorts of food. And I've tried to make sure that I keep everything as healthy as possible. No naan breads, biryanis, all of that stuff.
Have you got to deal with the in-laws much, or is that?
No.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that is good. That is a blessing.
Oh no, that's congratulations to you, man. Allah bless you with that. We're really happy for you, brother.
I mean, it took me 4 years, I guess. So I think as a revert, you kind of marriage is scary because it's a new thing. Yeah, when I did convert, I was engaged to a Catholic girl, and I tried to make that work for a year or so. Could never make it work, and then you kind of sort of left thinking, "Oh, what do I do now? Do I go on Muzmatch? Do I get recommendations from friends?" And I never liked that way. When you kind of your Dr. Imran might say, "There's a sister I know," and then you meet and you're like, "Well, actually, I'm not interested in her at all."
Did you go on Muzmatch then?
I didn't. I never experienced Muzmatch, no.
Or any of those?
No, I didn't do any online dating. Funny enough, I used to when I was a non-Muslim. I used to love the online date, the Tinder and all that. But I think Muzmatch is really just a Muslim Tinder, really, isn't it? From what I gather from other brothers, some of the profiles.
You honestly didn't create a profile on there, like even with a fake profile.
No, you won't find any Jordan M profile on Muzmatch. No genuine ones, anyway.
Yeah, like British Pakistani atheist photo. I thought that was you when I looked. Even you thought it. That's quite good.
Yeah.
So you could go to Turkey and they might, treat you like a superstar because they think you're a famous actor.
I have heard on my live streams. I've heard you look like Ertugrul. I never know what they meant. Now I know.
Yeah. Oh, that's like the main character of the show as well.
So it's the actor.
Wow. You can get yourself a little side job there then. Yeah,
it will be like one of those. What are those like double acts, isn't it? One of those. Like a fake Elvis.
Yeah. You could be one of those stunt people. Do you remember Black Hat Man? Do you remember him? He was a stunt man, wasn't he?
Black Hat Man. Yeah. What happened to him? So he was a stunt man in real life. I know he had this kind of nunchucks and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
what
don't know
happens to
what's
these
happened to him.
people? They get really obsessed with Speaker's Corner and then they just disappear.
Yeah.
Because he had his own channel and everything, and I think I quite liked him actually, because I felt like he kind of stood for something, even though I didn't agree with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe people get jobs and they're just worried about what they say after that.
Yeah.
Because he had a fight in the park too, didn't he? He had a fight.
Oh yes. I was surprised he got so triggered by that one guy. Like,
Yeah.
it was that he actually lost his temper.
Yeah.
It was unusual for him.
Yeah.
Maybe he had some personal stuff going on that affected his emotions.
Well, he used to turn up with a stick, right? And like some
Yes.
I don't know.
And ninja boots. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I asked him the question, and I think this is what Daniel Hikichi should have asked, because he was supporting porn as well. Would you allow your daughter in porn? And he was like, yeah, absolutely fine, which I never believed. I don't believe anyone would want their daughter as a porn star.
And that is also from the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
It is,
you must be aware of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember it? What was it again?
Somebody
guy
said
to the Messenger of Allah,
should I? Yeah.
He said, please make it permissible. Make zina permissible for me.
That's right.
Please make it permissible for me. So he asked him, would you like it for was it for his mother or his daughter? I don't remember which.
I think his mother.
When you look at it from that perspective, it's quite different.
Yeah. Did you used to watch Speaker's Corner?
All right, cool. It's nice catching up with you guys. Hope you've all been good. It sounds like you've all been good.
I've got a feeling we actually can't hear us again. This is great.
I don't want to go on forever on the show, so I might
you can't hear us
shortly. But is there anything interesting that you want to bring up or mention?
Yeah. Go on, Claire. You can't hear us.
No. I was just saying. I think I managed to say all my thing, and I'll be off. And thank you for having me. Nice to talk to you again, Jordan. And I'll leave you to
your channel. I'll have a look.
Yes, please. And you can post there, and I won't block you. And you can tell me what you read. Me, I don't mind. They all do anyway. Yeah. So thanks again. Bye.
Yeah, bye, Claire. Thanks for coming.
Oh, just me and you. I think we're both good at putting people to sleep, actually. So I think we've done well.
So I think you must be home now because you